Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself. Feeling safe is a basic human need, though how we define safety, what safe means to us, can vary from person to person. We all have different appetites for risk. Some of us will do anything to avoid any kinds of pain or chance of something going wrong, and some of us are very used to risk and take a lot of risks and do things that others would consider dangerous or even stupid because of the reckless disregard for someone's own personal safety. For instance, if you looked at something like the Red Bull X Games, you might think, why would anyone consider doing something like that? Not only are they risking their lives to put on this show for us, but they've also got to train every day and do something that is incredibly risky, that can lead to broken bones, paralysis, or even death. And for someone who is risk adverse and wants to remain uninjured, someone who wants to remain comfortable and safe, that can seem like quite a ludicrous thing to do. But their definition of safety is very different to yours. They are safe in the knowledge that they are doing something that they love and that there are certain risks that come with that. And the cost of doing that for a living and having that hobby is the chance that they might get injured or something might happen to them. And they're more than happy to accept that risk, because on the other hand, if they didn't do that, then they wouldn't be living the life that they wanted to live. And that to them is far more scary than the thought of jumping over some 50-foot high obstacle. Now, of course, what we're looking at here is the two extremes. The person who isn't willing to take any risk and is constantly limiting themselves to remain in a space of comfort and safety. And then you have the other extreme where someone is willing to take risks every day with their life. But you also have everything in between. You also have all of the space in between those two extremes, where most of us live, where we're not quite willing to do the extremes or risking our lives or our bodies. And we all have various reasons for this. It may be because we have children that we have to look after and we can't afford to be injured and unable to look after them. It could be because we work in something physical where physical injury means that we can't earn a living, which means that we can't provide for our families. There's loads of reasons why we avoid risk, but what is important to understand is that it is us who defines that. We define that for ourselves. If you analyze all of the ways something can go wrong, you will quickly realize that anything can have detrimental consequences, even something tiny and insignificant. There is always a way that something can go wrong, in which way it sets in like a spiral of events that just continue to get worse and worse. Things that we do every day are probably, even we know that they're not the best thing for us. We all have bad habits and things that we don't do that and probably we should do, or some things that we do that we probably shouldn't do. We all take marginal risks and we feel like it's calculated, but we are the ones doing that calculation. We are the ones deciding, like, this is okay because it only harms us over a long period of time, and this is okay because the chance of it going wrong is fairly low. But we are the ones doing that assessment, and that assessment is with all of our biases, with every experience that we've ever had mashed into that decision. Because if you took risks when you were younger and they went really badly, then maybe that kind of stuck with you and that highlighted the consequences of a wrong decision to you much earlier on, and you were really negatively impacted by that experience. You are going to carry that forward with you. So you are going to be less risk adverse in the future. You're going to avoid putting yourself through that same trauma and pain. And many of us can get locked into that very early on, and it can change the entirety of our lives because we base every decision that we make on limited information about what we believe to be something bad that happened because we weren't good enough or we didn't make a decision that was beneficial to us. Whereas it could have just been something like bad timing, or maybe there was a piece of information that we missed that was contextual as to why that didn't happen. It may be something like a competition and your opponent bribed the judge or something like that. We have no idea why these things happen sometimes, yet all we take away from it is that we did this, bad thing came from it, not going to do that again. But then swoops in the hero of the story, and then you have ego and pride. And these kind of tools that you develop early on, these keep you experiencing things and putting yourself through pain, because you want to believe that there can be a different outcome. You've seen that it's possible. You saw that someone else has benefited from making that decision that you made, or that it goes right for lots of people, so why can't it go right for me? And you believe that it's possible, and you want to believe that you are capable of that and making those decisions correctly. And this could be something as big as a career decision or a job or what friends to have, or something as small as wearing a shirt that you like that people make fun of you for wearing. All of these experiences build over time, and your sense of identity grows alongside it. And you decide what kind of things you want to experiment with, what risks you're willing to take and what risks you're not willing to take. You decide that for yourself. And even though our experiences have a huge impact on creating this bias towards the risks that we will take and the risks that we won't, this is why healing is so important, and understanding how these experiences are impacting your everyday and every decision that you make. This is why that work to understand yourself and where your sense of identity comes into play. Because if you don't understand what is driving you to make the decisions that you're making and the thoughts that you're having, you will go through life on autopilot, believing that life is happening to you, that you are not living life, but you are almost watching yourself live your life, not necessarily doing what you want to do or what you think you should do, but instead only doing things that you believe will contribute to your safety and comfort. And you end up locked into a very limited existence of not really experiencing much at all, because to experience is to risk. There can be no true experience without risk. You have to do something new, and something new carries quite a large amount of risk because it is unknown. We have no idea of what will happen because we haven't gone through it before. And our perception of that unknown is what brings us to make a decision on whether to do it or not. Do I think that if I do this, something terrible is going to happen, or do I think something great is going to happen? But if you have a long-standing bias of believing that things go wrong for you, that things don't go well for you often when you risk, that you're not lucky, that you're unfortunate, that life just hates you, or whatever bias that you have, how do you think that is going to drive your life? You're going to constantly select the option of safety and comfort over the experience. And this is the trap that many, many, many people fall into. Remaining in their comfort zone, locked into a life, spending their days on repeat, where they're getting up, it's a predictable day, you know exactly what they're going to do, they've got a routine, and there is no true experience to their day because they've already experienced it every other day. And they will start paying attention to minor, insignificant variables. And this is why people get really irritated or angry at little things in life, when all of the things that should really just be blown over or laughed at or ignored, those things become a real big deal, because those are the only threats on their comfort, on their safety. Something is pulling them out of their comfort zone and into an experience, and they want to return back to their comfort zone, back to the autopilot, back to living the same day on repeat. And unfortunately, this kind of buries people. They get snowed under their own weight of comfort, and it becomes very hard to get out of that. They don't really see how they can change their life, and they don't really enjoy their life, or they're not happy, but nothing is bad enough to force them to grow. When things are really bad, you think, oh God, I've got to do something about this. And you spring to action. And when things are really good, then they're really good. But the problem is that huge middle area where things aren't really good nor bad, but we're just existing in the middle. And we're living a kind of monotonous, uninteresting life. And the irony being that the reason that they're living that life is so that they can continue to live that life. That the more they avoid things that are risky or things that could harm them, they are then foregoing living their life so that they continue to live a life that they don't want to live. And that almost sounds funny in hindsight, or silly, or ridiculous, but that is the state that I would probably say that majority of people live in. Because for those that always had safety around them, always had that, that's the standard, that's the normal for them, and they don't ever want to give that up. And for those of us who were always in survival mode, we never get out of that survival mode. We never transition from survival to living. We get stuck in that paradigm of, I'm just trying to, not have everything fall apart around me. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got my basic needs met. And a persistent fear that at some point that won't be the case, that it's all going to go wrong or all going to collapse, and that we need to do more in order to make sure that we don't get put in those situations again. And it becomes a sort of catch-22. No matter what end you're on, we all kind of congregate towards the middle, but it's the people that escape this and truly take life as it is, the people that have those experiences that make us realize that life is short, that life is happening right now, and that there is no safety, and that anything can go wrong at any point in time, but it can also go right at any point in time, that amazing things can happen every day and terrible things can happen every day, and we have no control to choose what's going to happen. All we can do is live life and experience and forget the control, forget the trying to choose the variables and limit ourselves. And instead, whatever we want to do, whatever we want to achieve, whatever we want to be, to go and do that. Because we all have finite resources, we all have finite time, we all have finite energy. And it's much better that we put this towards living a life that we actually enjoy and that we're excited for, and that we can say, yeah, we're actually living, we're experiencing, we're doing the things that we want to do. That is our way of making the very best of this experience, the very most of it, for everyone. Everyone benefits from us doing this. Because if you teach your kids that being safe means limiting yourself and locking yourself away and preventing any danger from getting near you, they're going to live the same limited lives that you are teaching them to live. They're going to be scared of everything. They're going to be worried about taking risks and taking a chance on themselves and believing in themselves. We all owe it to ourselves and the people around us to free ourselves from this, to realize that life is short and that the consequences are everywhere and the risk is everywhere, and we risk just by being alive. And if we're all living like that, in that awareness, we are all going to strive to make the best possible existence for each other. We just all need to remember that life is risky, and the greatest risk and the biggest risk is not living your life, of remaining safe, remaining comfortable, and foregoing the whole of experience, because there is amazing things to do. There are untold joys and things to discover, but you need to be willing to experience them, to put yourself out there, to go and do something new, to go and do something exciting and challenging, to risk. Thank you for listening.